Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. For today's video, I'm proud to present an up-close and personal, in-depth look with the all-new 2016 Audi TT. This is going to be a detailed, in-depth review of the TT. We'll start it up, show the engine, get an exhaust clip, go over the performance data, and show you many of the unique aspects of both the interior as well as exterior. And so, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop on in, start it up, let it run. Our tester is finished in Tango Red Metallic paired to a black interior with the optional sports seats and diamond quilted Napa leather. The TT starts at $42,900, but with all of the options featured here, including the technology package, total MSRP including destination is $50,600. To start, make sure you have the key fob within the interior, put your foot on the brake, and then hit the console mounted button to go. The TT features electromechanical speed-sensitive power steering that's routed through an aggressive 3-spoke multifunction flat-bottomed steering wheel. It has really nice attention to detail, including the hollow spokes and plentiful bright work. High-quality leather wraps the wheel, while prominent upper and lower grip bolsters add an awesome touch of sportiness. The steering feels like a proper sports car. It's nicely weighted and builds up through the corners, feeling very linear relative to the input. It's light and smooth when the car is set to comfort and firms up quite a bit in dynamic mode. I personally prefer the stiffer setting where you have less assistance and more of a direct feeling. Currently, the TT in our market comes standard with all-wheel drive, a permanent system Audi calls Quattro, which continuously varies the torque between the front and rear axles through a hydraulic multi-plate clutch. When placed into dynamic mode, the system becomes rear-biased, especially through the corners, but under extreme circumstances up to 100% of the torque can be sent to the front or rear as traction necessitates. The TT, at least at the time of this video, is only being offered with a 6-speed S-Tronic dual-clutch transmission. Like Volkswagen's DSG gearbox, it delivers very fast, almost seamless shifts, especially on kickdowns. After placing it into drive, you can shift the car manually by clicking the selector to the right or by the paddles behind the steering wheel. If driving in automatic, you can also tip the selector backward to sport mode, which raises the transmission shift points and makes power more readily available in spirited driving. Both the manual and sport modes feature rev matching downshifts. Manual mode allows you to extract the most fun out of the transmission. I love the placement of the paddles connected to the wheel behind the upper spokes to make it very easy to shift when in mid-corner. Upshifts are accompanied by subtle blips on the exhaust. A launch control system comes standard that holds the revs at a certain RPM when holding down the brake and throttle fully. The all-wheel drive system then appropriates the power where needed for zero wheel spin and no hints of torque steer. When placed in reverse, a backup camera with adaptive guidance lines automatically shows up within the new Virtual Cockpit, along with the front and rear proximity sensors. We'll cover this new instrument cluster more in depth later in the video. The shifter is wrapped in leather with satin bright work and a subtle S-Tronic logo. In the center stack, there's a bank of buttons. To the left is Audi's Drive Select system, which allows you to go between 4 different modes to tailor the steering effort, engine, sound, all-wheel drive engagement, throttle, and transmission mapping to suit your personal taste. Comfort and dynamic are the primary modes, but there's also an auto setting that allows the car to alter the behaviors necessary based on driving habits. There's also an individual setting for more fine-tuning if you prefer. So we'll go ahead and flip on the headlamps, fog lamps, and the hazards. Both windows are fully automatic. And we'll go ahead and check out the exterior. This year, Audi is bringing the all-new 3rd generation TT to our shores. First launched overseas last year, the new model has been designed with the 1st generation in mind, to take the car back to its roots, so to speak. It now weighs even less, boasts a heightened sense of driving enjoyment, and introduces plenty of clever and class-exclusive technology that rivals some of the best luxury cars. With just a passing glance, it may be hard for some to distinguish all of the differences between this car and its predecessor, as the majority of the obvious changes are hidden underneath the restyled aluminum bodywork. I've always thought the TT was a cool little car, especially when looking at the original, which featured a groundbreaking design for its time and impressive attention to detail inside and out. This is even more true for 2016. The TT is best appreciated in person, where you can really take a close look at the impressive attention to detail. In fact, despite a similar teardrop shape, there are no shared parts between the Gen 3 and Gen 2 TT. It now sports a more chiseled physique than before, with crisper lines and sharp contours that make it look like a mini R8. As with the Gen 1, the Gen 3 is a design showcase, perhaps not in the same sense as the original car, but it combines the best attributes of the Gen 1 and Gen 2 to create a car that still expresses a unique sense of style, combining plenty of modern and classic touches. Currently, our TT is offered in two flavors, TT and the high-performance TTS. Quattro all-wheel drive is standard, as is the S-Tronic dual-clutch transmission. A common theme, whether you're looking at the front or rear profiles, are the many horizontal features, which gives the TT some added visual width and a great stance with these larger wheels. The front fascia features beautiful LED headlamps, an updated single-frame grille, and a more aggressive forward-leaning clamshell-styled hood with the Audi rings at the leading edge. The vertical LED light strips in the headlamps are said to be inspired by the R18 e-tron Quattro Le Mans racer. One of my favorite styling cues are the flared wheel arches and the continuous horizontal shoulder line. This is a common trait between all TTs. The new aluminum optic fuel filler door was inspired by the original. It's surrounded by socket screws and modernized with the capless fuel filler system. Other details worth noting include the dynamic side sills and how the front wheel arches intersect with the edges of the hood. In the rear, you'll find LED tail lamps and sequential turn signals. The lights are bridged by a full-width LED third brake light. A spoiler is mounted flush with the hatch and automatically races around 74 miles an hour for greater downforce over the rear wheels. Dual polished exhaust outlets are standard. The TTS adds signature quad tips. The car now rides on Volkswagen Group's MQB or Modular Transverse Matrix platform, which dictates a fixed relationship between the front wheel centerline and pedal box. The newfound architecture led to a complete redesign of the TT's structure, making it lighter and stiffer than its predecessor. It uses a hybrid of aluminum and ultra-high-strength steels, which also benefit overall passenger safety. This is a key difference between the Volkswagen Golf GTI we looked at over the summer. It too is based on MQB, but has a longer wheelbase and uses more steel within its structure, so it's a very flexible setup. All of this creates a body shell that's 23% stiffer than the previous TT. Speaking of, the Gen 2 TT weighed nearly 200 pounds lighter than the original, but for 2016 weight drops even further by additional 110 pounds or so, partly thanks to greater use of aluminum within its body panels and chassis structure. All in all, the TT weighs about 150 pounds less than the new Volkswagen Golf R. The Gen 3 is slightly smaller in some respects, including a reduction in overall length and width by 0.8 and 0.4 inches respectively. Height remains the same, but the biggest change is a 1.5 inch longer wheelbase, which shortens the front and rear overhangs a bit. The all-new TT is a tinier package overall, and it's the sportiest offering yet. It's complex in both the technology offered and the design, but at the same time it's very simple and beautiful. Audi did truly a spectacular job with the car, combining quite a sporty profile and an appreciable level of comfort and refinement you'd associate with a GT car. The TT is available with two different 5-spoke alloy wheel designs. The standard 18-inch dynamic design wheels are 8.5 inches wide and are available with summer or all-season 245/40 tires. Our tester features the optional 19 by 9 inch star design forged aluminum wheels that are wrapped in low-profile 245/35 summer tires. Together, these help the TT achieve nearly 1 G of lateral acceleration. Providing good stopping power, estimated to be between 105 and 110 feet, are 12.3 inch internally ventilated discs up front and 11.8 inch solid discs in the rear. Fixed calipers can be found at each corner, along with 4-wheel ABS and electronic brake force distribution. Larger brakes are added when you step up to the TTS, including 13.3 inch front discs and 4 piston calipers. The aluminum front calipers are 11 pounds lighter than the previous model, helping to reduce unsprung weight. Underneath, the TT is a fully independent McPherson strut front suspension and an aluminum subframe. The rear is a 4-link design with a rubber-mounted subframe in addition to front and rear anti-roll bars. The underbody incorporates aerodynamic felt covers to reduce wind resistance and provide added sound insulation for a quieter interior. Audi's magnetic ride suspension is standard on the TTS, which allows more damping flexibility than the fixed rate of our tester. The ride is very firm, but not enough that it's too harsh. It's super fun to toss through corners, accelerating out of the apex as the all-wheel drive system is working to its fullest. There's even a brake-based torque vectoring system that applies the brakes to the inside wheels as needed to help the car rotate through a corner sharper. This was my first time driving a TT, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Compared to similarly sized competitors and two-seaters like the BMW Z4 and Mercedes SLK, Audi seems to have quite a cool offering and offers a lot of engagement despite not having the manual transmission, along with some added practicality with the back seat, good trunk space, and a lot of cool tech. At our tester's price, it also might be worth considering the Porsche Cayman and Chevrolet Corvette if you're looking for more of a driver's car. I really hope I'm able to test out the TTS in the near future, which should add a completely different dimension of performance. Overall length is 164.7 inches with a width of 72.1 inches and a height of 53.2 inches. Wheelbase is 98.6 inches. Total curb weight for our tester is around 3,186 pounds. The new TT is powered by a thoroughly updated 2-liter turbocharged and intercooled 4-cylinder, similar to the engine used in the Volkswagen GTI we tested this summer. It features 4 valves per cylinder, dual overhead cams, and the latest variable cam phasing system, which not only controls valve lift, but timing for both the intake and exhaust valves. The engine's direct injection system also delivers fuel at higher pressures than before. The compression ratio is rated at 9.6 to 1 with a peak redline of around 6,700 RPM. A revised engine design, which consists of an aluminum alloy cross-flow cylinder head and a cast iron block, is said to reduce weight this go-around by focusing on lighter materials and construction techniques, such as aluminum, a polymer oil pan, a forged steel crankshaft, reducing the amount of counterweights by half and modifying the 72-pound iron block. It also benefits from reduced internal friction for greater overall efficiency. Integrating the exhaust manifold into the cylinder head helps the engine reach operating temperatures quicker for reduced emissions at startup. It develops 220 horsepower at 4,500 RPM and 258 pound-feet of torque between 1,600 and 4,400 RPM, thanks to a single twin-scroll turbocharger that pumps out 17.2 psi of boost. This represents an increase of 9 horsepower with an identical torque rating compared to last year's TT. These power ratings are also similar to a GTI equipped with the optional performance package, but the TT feels quicker, especially with the all-wheel drive system. 0 to 60 miles an hour takes around 5.3 seconds with a top speed limited to 130 miles an hour. A launch control system is standard with the S-Tronic transmission. As good as the TT felt, I can only imagine the level of performance that the TTS brings. The power ratings may not look impressive at first, but the TT thoroughly impressed me by how quick and sure-footed it was, especially through the corners and launches from a standstill. All in all, I think it's a more dynamic feeling car than the GTI. As the turbo spools up, power comes on strong and smooth. It feels peppy and highly energetic. It also sounds quite good, if not a bit reserved. Placing the car into dynamic mode enhances the engine's sound through the cabin. Fuel economy is estimated to be between 23 miles to a gallon in the city and 30 on the highway, similar to its predecessor. Expect an average around 26 miles to a gallon. The TT features a 14.5 gallon tank and recommends premium fuel. When looking at the Gen 3's aesthetics as a whole, my favorite thing about it is the redesigned interior, which brings things back to basics with an appreciable level of simplicity and a proper sports car layout that focuses everything towards the driver. As with the exterior, the interior is instilled with an impressive attention to detail befitting of a modern Audi. Everywhere you touch, there's soft-edged materials and supple stitch portions. Textured aluminum decorates the door handles and center console, while beautiful white LED ambient lighting outlines the top of the speaker grills and fills the interior with a soft glow at night. All of your power accessories, including your windows, locks, and mirrors, are located on the door in addition to a decent storage compartment. The attention to detail continues with our tester's optional sports seats that are wrapped in high-quality diamond-stitched Napa leather upholstery. Both the driver and passenger seat feature full power adjustment with 4-way power lumbar, not to mention manual thigh support. Audi claims that the new seat structures actually weigh less than the ones used on the Gen 2. I haven't tried out the standard seating option, but these are really quite nice. They're on the firm side, but they're very supportive, but have appropriate padding where it matters the most. There's a lot of lateral support. The thigh support is a nice touch in addition to the fixed headrest. You have a flared upper backrest for added shoulder support. It's just a really nice package overall. We'll talk about this more later in the video, but to gain access to the back seat, you pull on the pull strap and then use the power adjustments to slide the seat forward. The accommodations are modest at best, and unless you're a child, you're probably not going to fit back there. We will hop in the back seat and show you the accommodations, but it's probably best used as a storage space. On the passenger side seat, like I said, you have full power adjustment, including the power lumbar. You also have a very minimalistic design. We'll talk about the virtual cockpit and the air conditioning controls and stuff in just a moment, but it just goes to show you how driver-focused the interior is. You still have the circular air vents, which are a common trait to all TTs, but you have the modern integration of the air conditioning controls, the heated seat controls, and all of that good stuff. Here's a pretty decent-sized glove box. It's all lined in felt with illumination. Continuing throughout, you have side curtain airbags, of course, a modified airbag for the steering wheel. It's actually a bit smaller and allows for better visibility for the instrument cluster. You also have standard driver and passenger side knee airbags. The steering wheel itself is manual tilting telescoping, and you have all of your lighting controls to the bottom left-hand side of the dash. Speaking of the dash, it's all wrapped in soft touch material. You have little TT logos to either of the outer portions, and finish off with a black headliner and a contoured roofline that allows a pretty good amount of space for the front occupants.
So let's go ahead and see how she sounds, both sitting still and on the road. So let's go ahead and shut her up and check out some of the new interior features.
Our tester is equipped with the optional 12-speaker 680-watt Bang & Olufsen surround sound system. At $950, I think it's well worth it for the crisp notes and powerful bass that you get. It's all routed through the new Audi Virtual Cockpit that combines the entire infotainment system and speedometer cluster into one easy-to-use TFT liquid crystal display. Audi claims that this design is meant to minimize the driver distractions because since everything's located right in front of your face, it's still within the same visual plane and you don't have to necessarily take your eyes off the road to look at a screen in the center console. All of your main controls are located on the steering wheel to the left-hand side and allows you to go between the different screen modes and main menus from navigation, radio, media, telephone, and more. The screen has two view modes. There's a more traditional layout that has a large speedometer tachometer, and the infotainment system in that mode will be condensed to the middle of the screen. Then there's the infotainment mode, which expands it out to the full width of the display, minimizes the speedometer tachometer, but regardless of which view mode you're in, everything is easy to see. In the bottom of the display, you also have the vehicle temperature and fuel. It did take me some time to get used to, as there's so many features and information menus packed into the 12.3-inch display, but the more I got familiar with it, which honestly didn't take that much time, the more I started thinking that this is absolutely brilliant. How come nobody has come up with a solution like this before? I mean, combining everything within a relatively easy to use layout just seems genius. I mean, some manufacturers have started putting 2 touchscreens in the dash, which to me is just too much technology, and it takes away from the overall aesthetics and the prettiness of the interior. So hats off to Audi for doing something innovative and different that it looks fantastic. Especially when you have it in infotainment mode, the Google Maps with satellite imaging looks breathtaking with the high-resolution graphics. The MMI system is routed through an updated touch-sensitive controller setup in the center console that foregoes the previous quadrant setup for 2 toggle switches that allow you to go between navigation, map, telephone, radio, and media. As you get more familiar with the system, all throughout there's different menus where you can use the written commands such as navigation. There's just so many cool features with the Virtual Cockpit that we probably just scratched the surface, but I hope that's a little helpful as just a quick overview on the basic features and functionality. The pillars are wrapped in cloth, the visors are padded, and you have LED illuminated vanity mirrors. Up top you have an auto-dimming view mirror, 3-position garage home link, your hands-free Bluetooth microphones, and LED touch-sensitive reading lamps. Easily the coolest thing about this interior aside from the Virtual Cockpit is how simple and minimalistic this new design is. I mean, there's so much technology and stuff packed into this car, but it's done in a way that it's not invasive, it's not overbearing. I mean, you don't have a big screen in the middle and a collection of buttons all over the place. It's almost like bringing the car back to basics, so to speak. For example, instead of having a bunch of buttons and knobs and stuff in the center console for the climate control system, Audi placed all of them within each air vent. It's the coolest thing in person. I've never seen anything like this. Each of the air vents kind of remind me of an airplane turbine or something, but the turbine, the different spokes and stuff in here are angled in a way that all you have to do is rotate it to change the direction of the airflow. And if you see these little markings on the edges of the air vents right there, that is the direction where the airflow is going. So if we put it up here, the air is going to go up. All of the vents also have these little digital displays and rotary wheels so you can control various things. So on the left hand side, obviously it's your fan speed. In the middle is your temperature adjustment and one-touch automatic. And on the right hand side you have your various zones. Not to mention recycling and vent. Front and rear defrost, and to close the vents you just grab these little toggles here and flick them to the left. Each of the outer vents control the 3-stage heated seats. Continuing down beneath the climate control, you have a small bank of toggle switches. To the left hand side is your drive mode select switch like I talked about earlier, traction control, hazards, deploying the rear spoiler, and your parking sensors. At the leading edge of the center console, you have a small storage cubby that's the perfect size for an iPhone 6. You also have an auxiliary and USB port. Starter button, not to mention some basic radio controls, volume, and power. The center console is outlined by double-stitched padded material. You have the controls for the MMI system like I talked about earlier, not to mention an electronic parking brake. There's a single cup holder right here, a padded armrest that you can actually slide forward for more comfort. But when it's back, you can pull it up, lock it in place, and there's an additional cup holder, not to mention a 12-volt power outlet. As far as the steering wheel, on the right-hand side you have your hands-free telephone, voice commands, and basic radio controls. The left-hand side all corresponds to your driver information system in the Virtual Cockpit. The right-hand side, your wipers and automatic rain sensing wipers, parking lights, turn signals and high beams, and in the very bottom, cruise control. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and shut her down. Now let's go ahead and hop in the back seat. So I haven't climbed into the back seat yet, so let's go ahead and give that a try. Again, to push the seat forward, you pull up on that little tab there to release the backrest, then use the electric adjustments to go ahead and slide it forward. Alright. Okay. Well, I'm 5'10" and this is not possible by any means. This is like the smallest back seat I've sat in a while. So this is definitely a true like 2+2 vehicle. Plenty of room for the front, not a lot of room back here. You can put a car seat back here if you're hauling around a toddler. There's child seat anchors to either side. That's the only scenario where I really see you're going to be able to use this back seat other than for storage. And like I showed you, you can grab these tabs right here and fold it down. It's a completely flat loading space. So really, it's not that unpractical of a vehicle when you consider its size, especially when you take out this cargo privacy cover. It's got a pretty decent amount of storage space. For the sake of talking about it, there's a little armrest back here. There's some storage. There's coat hooks up top. Like I said, I'm 5'10", and it doesn't matter what comfortable seating position I set for myself up front. I don't have any headroom or anything like that. I'm just too tall to sit back here. And the leg room is a problem as well. So if you're going to be hauling really much anybody, the TT is probably going to be too small of a vehicle for you unless you have child seats back here. But let's face it, if you're going to be looking at buying a TT, you're probably not going to be hauling around 4 adult friends all the time unless you just don't like them very much. Whoever draws the short straw, I guess. But it's still pretty cool nonetheless. I like the extra capacity for the cargo space. That definitely is a big plus for this vehicle. But that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and hop on back out and check out the cargo space. A big plus for choosing the coupe over the TT Roadster is the fact that you have a lot more cargo space. It's around 12 cubic feet in all, but it can be made a lot more practical like you saw earlier by folding down the rear seat. In the back you have a storage net that can be tied to all 4 cargo tie downs. There's 2 bits of LED illumination, plenty of soft carpeting. Underneath the load floor you have a spare tire and your changing equipment. Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the in-depth look at the 2016 Audi TT. Be sure to stay tuned next time, there's a lot more where that came from. Take care guys.